In the galaxy of the 41st millennium, there are no gods of mercy. The deities that hold sway over reality itself are cruel, capricious, or indifferent, and their existence shapes the fate of entire civilizations. Some were born from the psychic resonance of mortal minds. Others are ancient beings forged at the dawn of time, and others still are myths that became real. They are not figures of comfort. They are powers of domination, hunger, deception, survival, and despair. The gods of the Warhammer 40,000 universe are not remote abstractions. They act directly upon reality. Their wars warp the fabric of the materium. Their worshippers remake whole empires in their image, and their names are whispered in both hope and terror. Among them, none loom larger than the Ruinous Powers, the Chaos Gods. Born from the nightmares, desires, and madness of thinking beings, they are the eternal predators of the warp. Each embodies an extreme facet of existence. Each offers power, but at the price of damnation, and their schemes span eons. Khorne, the blood god. Khorne is rage without end, the god of war, of bloodshed, of murder, of slaughter. He is often said to be the first of the great chaos gods to awaken, coalescing in the immaterium during humanity's bloody dawn, as intelligent species across the galaxy first took to killing in organized war. Every battle, every scream of agony, every drop of spilled blood has fed him since. His domain is violence made manifest. To Khorne, all forms of conflict glorify him, from a duel between champions to the devastation of planetary warfare. His creed is brutally simple. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. The demonic legions of Khorne reflect his nature. Towering bloodthirsters, incarnations of his fury, command hosts of bloodletters, while hounds of brass and flesh bay for the blood of prey. His throne is said to rest atop an impossible mountain of skulls, each the remnant of a slain warrior, with more piled endlessly higher. Khorne despises weakness and cowardice, but his wrath is not confined to the treacherous or fearful. Even acts of noble sacrifice and martial honor feed him, for ultimately all bloodshed is his. In the end, he cares not from whence the blood flows, only that it flows. Throughout history, countless champions have sworn themselves to Khorne's service. The World Eater's Traitor Legion under Angron, driven by the butcher's nails embedded in their skulls, embody his creed in endless butchery. Khornate warbands rove the stars, their banners marked with the 8-pointed star and the symbol of the skull. They leave nothing behind but ruin. Prophecies speak of the day when Khorne's rage will drown the galaxy in a tide of blood, so vast that even the stars themselves will darken. Whether this is allegory or inevitability is irrelevant, for so long as mortals kill, Khorne will endure. Nurgle, the Plague Father. If Khorne is violence, then Nurgle is decay. The Lord of Pestilence is the god of entropy, rot, disease, and despair. Yet he is also, paradoxically, a figure of paternal generosity, for in his corruption lies the comfort of inevitability. Nurgle was born from the despair of living beings confronting death, and the acceptance that all things must end. His realm in the warp is a grotesque garden, filled with rotting trees heavy with blighted fruit, rivers of pus, and fields of crawling plague. At its heart lies his cauldron, where he stirs new contagions and diseases with the delight of a craftsman. Each new pox is not merely a weapon, but a gift, for his followers believe that through suffering, Nurgle brings unity. The daemons of Nurgle mirror his character. Great unclean ones, corpulent and jovial, spread plagues with laughter and affection. Nurglings scurry about in mischief, while plague-bearers toll bells of despair. To those who dread mortality, Nurgle offers release the peace of acceptance. To those who surrender, his embrace is suffocating, yet warm. Among his mortal servants are the Death Guard Traitor Legion, led by Mortarion, Primarch of Decay. Once noble warriors of the Great Crusade, they are now vectors of filth, their bodies bloated with disease, yet unkillable. They march at the forefront of Nurgle's wars, spreading plagues that can consume worlds. Prophecies concerning Nurgle speak of the final rot, when the galaxy itself succumbs to stillness. To his followers, this is not doom but solace, the day when all life becomes one with decay, equal in death, without struggle or pain. Tzeentch, the changer of ways. Tzeentch is the great deceiver, the architect of fate, the embodiment of sorcery and ambition. He was born from the hopes and schemes of mortal minds, from their desire to rise higher, to change destiny, to seek forbidden knowledge. His domain is that of manipulation, of lies, plots, conspiracies, and the labyrinth of fate itself. Unlike Khorne's brutal directness, Tzeentch operates through misdirection. His plans weave across centuries and millennia, often turning allies into enemies and enemies into unwitting pawns. His followers seek knowledge, power, and control, yet few realize they too are controlled, part of his eternal game. His daemons embody his shifting nature. Lords of change, avian sorcerer kings of the warp, carry fragments of his will. Horrors, both pink and blue, cackle and shift in endless cycles of destruction and rebirth. The very ground of his realm changes with every step, a living maze of impossible angles and illusions. The Thousand Suns Traitor Legion under Magnus the Red are his greatest mortal champions. Their obsession with knowledge and sorcery brought them into his embrace, but at the cost of their humanity. Many are now rubric marines, soulless suits of armor, their essence reduced to dust by the rubric of Ahriman. Tzeentch is prophecy itself. He is every prediction and every contradiction. His followers believe that in the end, his victory is assured, for change is the only constant in existence. Others whisper that even Tzeentch is enslaved to his own nature, forever plotting, yet never achieving finality. Slaanesh, the Prince of Excess. The youngest of the Chaos Gods, Slaanesh was born from atrocity on a scale beyond comprehension. When the ancient Eldari Empire reached its peak of decadence, their unrestrained pursuit of sensation tore a wound in reality itself. From that orgy of excess was born she who thirsts, Slaanesh, the god of lust, pride, perfection, and obsession. Slaanesh's birth annihilated countless Eldari souls in an instant, creating the Eye of Terror, once the largest warp storm in the galaxy, now rivaled and surpassed by the Great Rift. To this day, the Eldari fear Slaanesh above all, for their souls are drawn into the Prince of Excess at death unless protected by spirit stones or the Laughing God. Harlequins, uniquely, rely upon Kegorak's protection rather than spirit stones. The domain of Slaanesh is a palace of endless pleasure and torment, where every sensation is amplified to unbearable extremes. His daemons are as beautiful as they are horrifying. Keepers of Secret's Tower as embodiments of temptation and cruelty, while the lithe demonettes fight with claws that caress and kill in the same motion. Among mortals, Slaanesh's followers are those who seek perfection in art, sensation, or power, who push beyond every boundary until they are enslaved by their own obsession. The Emperor's children, led by the Primarch Fulgrim, are his chosen legion, corrupted into a nightmare of excess. Their every battle is a symphony of screams and ecstasy. Prophecies concerning Slaanesh are tied to the Eldari. It is said that only with the birth of Inyad, the Eldar God of the dead, might she who thirsts finally be defeated. Yet others believe Slaanesh is eternal. For as long as desire and indulgence exist, so too will the Prince of Excess. The Old Ones, architects of creation. Before gods walked the warp, before the Catan devoured the stars, there were the Old Ones, beings so ancient that even myth strains to remember them. They were not gods in the mortal sense, but creators and manipulators of life itself. To countless species, they were architects, teachers, and destroyers. To the universe, they were its first gardeners and its first casualties. Masters of the material and the immaterium. The Old Ones were born when the galaxy was still young, their civilization already ancient before many worlds had even cooled. Possessed of intellects beyond comprehension, they wielded mastery over both the physical realm and the warp. To them, matter and energy were clay, and souls were tools to shape reality. They did not merely build cities or empires. They built ecosystems, species, and the psychic architecture of entire worlds. Their understanding of the immaterium was unrivaled. They created the webway, a labyrinthine network of tunnels through the warp, shielded from its madness, a feat no other race has since equaled. They seeded life across the stars, crafting species capable of channeling the warp's energy, both as weapons and as art. It was through their design that the first true psychic races were born: the Eldari, the Gork, forerunners of the Orcs, the Jokero, and many more. The war in heaven. But even gods can sow their own ruin. Their greatest creation, life itself, drew the attention of something older still: the Catan. These star gods, birthed from the hearts of suns, hungered for the life energy that the Old Ones had spread so freely. The Necrontyr, a dying race envious of the Old Ones' immortality, became their instruments. Thus began the war in heaven, the first and greatest apocalypse. The Old Ones unleashed their psychic creations upon the Catan and their legions of living metal. Reality itself burned under their conflict. They bent time, summoned storms in the warp, and birthed new species as weapons. But in doing so, they destabilized the very fabric of existence. The warp, once calm, became a storm of emotion and predation, the first stirrings of what would one day birth the gods of chaos. The fall of the Old Ones. In the end, even the Old Ones could not endure. The Catan devoured countless worlds. The Necrons scoured their temples to ash. The webway fractured under the strain of war. The Old Ones' last creations, the Gork, the Eldar, and the many psychic races of the time, were left to fight without their masters. And when the war in heaven finally ended with the shattering of the Catan, the Old Ones were gone, scattered, slain, or transcended beyond mortal knowing. Some claim the Slann, enigmatic amphibian beings, are their surviving servants. Others whisper that the Old Ones ascended into the warp, becoming the first true gods, or that they sleep still, hidden in the cold void, watching their failed garden rot. Legacy of the first gods. Though extinct, their fingerprints remain on everything. The webway still pulses with their design. The Eldari still echo their psychic perfection. Even the Orcs, crude and laughing, carry the genetic memory of the Old One's genius, engineered to be a weapon of resilience that endures when all else fails. The Old Ones are the forgotten gods of Order the Architects, whose empire birthed every race, every war, every god that followed. Their dream was to bring harmony to the stars. Their legacy is a galaxy of endless conflict. And perhaps that, too, was inevitable, for even creation casts a shadow. The Catan, star gods of the Necrons. Long before mankind crawled from old Terra's cradle, before the Eldari Empire rose in its pride, the galaxy was ruled by beings of unimaginable hunger. The Catan, the star gods. They were born at the dawn of time, immense entities of living energy that coalesced in the blazing hearts of stars. The Necrontyr, a mortal species cursed with short and agonizing lives beneath a cruel sun, were the first to discover them. Broken by envy of the long-lived Old Ones and desperate for deliverance, the Necrontyr called upon these stellar entities. The C'tan descended to the material plane, sheathed in bodies of necrodermis living metal that allowed their vast, star-born power to manifest. The bargain that followed was the doom of the galaxy. The C'tan offered the Necrontyr immortality, but at a cost. The Necrontyr became the Necrons, their flesh replaced with necrodermis, as the C'tan drank the cast-off life energy of the process, leaving an immortal but soulless populace bound by command protocols. Thus began the War in Heaven, a conflict that shook creation itself. The C'tan fed upon the life energies of the stars and of living beings, their hunger boundless. They waged war against the Old Ones, masters of the warp, and architects of life. Whole civilizations were consumed, their essence devoured by the star gods. The galaxy burned beneath their hunger, and for a time it seemed no power could oppose them. But betrayal is eternal. The Necrons, enslaved but not broken, turned upon their gods. With weapons of unimaginable potency, they shattered the C'tan into countless fragments, binding the shards within living tombs of stasis. The star gods were broken, but not destroyed. Even a single shard of a C'tan wields power beyond comprehension. Among the most infamous are these. The Nightbringer, oldest and most feared, said to embody death itself. Legends claim mortal fear of death is its legacy, and its shards still stalk battlefields, reaping lives with a cosmic scythe. The deceiver master of lies, it led the Necrontyr into bondage with promises of salvation. Even shattered, its shards whisper falsehoods that can unmake empires. The Void Dragon, many tech priests whisper that this entity slumbers beneath Mars, perhaps even the machine god itself, though this remains unproven legend. The Outsider, a maddened C'tan, exiled beyond the galactic rim after devouring too many of its kin. It dwells in a prison of its own fractured mind, a nightmare waiting to be unleashed. Though the C'tan are shattered, their legacy endures. The Necrons still harness their shards as living weapons, unleashing fragments of divinity bound in chains. Prophecies whisper of the day the shards may reunite, and should that happen, the galaxy itself would become their feast. The Eldar Gods, fragments of a shattered pantheon. If the C'tan embodied hunger and eternity, the Eldari Gods embodied passion, artistry, and destruction. Born of the Eldari psyche, and sustained by their vast psychic resonance, these deities were both protectors and reflections of their children. Yet, as with all things touched by hubris, their fate was tragedy. The Eldari once ruled the stars, their empire spanning countless worlds. Their gods were worshipped and feared, woven into every ritual of life and death. But the warp, ever hungry, claimed them. Some endure, some were slain, and some were devoured by the birth of She Who Thirsts, Slaanesh, Asuryan, the Phoenix King. The greatest of the Eldari gods, Asuryan embodied order and majesty. He decreed the separation of mortals and gods, forbidding divine interference. When Slaanesh was born, Asuryan was consumed, his essence scattered to ash. Kayla Mensha Cain, the bloody-handed god, the war god, wrath incarnate. His hands forever drip with blood. When Slaanesh rose, Cain fought back so fiercely that even She Who Thirsts could not destroy him entirely. Instead, he was shattered, his essence forming the avatars of Cain molten statues of divine fury that awaken in times of war. Vol, the smith god, forger of weapons and wonders beyond mortal comprehension. He deceived Cain with an unfinished gift, and in fury, Cain defeated him, crippling and chaining him to his anvil. When Slaanesh devoured the pantheon, Val's forge fell silent, though some whisper its echoes still ring in the void. Lilith, the maiden dreamer. Goddess of dreams and prophecy, she foresaw the fall and guided mortals towards survival. When Slaanesh rose, she fled into other realities. Some believe she escaped entirely and still whispers to seers. Isha, the mother of the Eldar. Goddess of life and healing, compassionate and wise. Captured during the fall, she was imprisoned by Nurgle, forced to watch him perfect his plagues. Yet she still whispers through the warp, offering faint guidance to her children. Khorne, the hunter. Khorne, the hunter, was the god of the wilds, the chase, and the untamed heart of creation. Consort of Isha and father of the Eldari race, he roamed the forests of lost worlds and the endless stars beyond, leading the wild hunt across reality's edges. His laughter was the thunder of the storm, his breath the wind that carried the scent of prey. In the age before the fall, the Eldari offered him prayers of pursuit and mastery, for every act of the hunt, every test of skill and endurance was his domain. When Slaanesh was born and the Eldari pantheon fell, Khorne too was devoured, his essence torn apart in the birth scream of she who thirsts. Yet it is said that his hounds still bay through the webway, their howls echoing across dead worlds, and that his spirit runs still, chasing forever through the dark between stars. Wherever the Eldari draw bow or blade, in perfect union of purpose and instinct, the hunter's shadow moves beside them unseen, but never gone. Kegarak, the laughing god. Trickster and jester, he alone escaped the fall, by vanishing into the webway, beyond Slaanesh's reach. He endures, mocking gods and mortals alike. His followers, the Harlequins, perform his tale's art and war entwined. Enid, the god of the dead. Not yet fully born at the time of the fall, Enid is the collective soul of all dead Eldari. Through the Inari, his power now manifests in the avatar known as the Incarn. Prophecy claims he will rise at the final hour to challenge Slaanesh and perhaps redeem his people. The Eldari pantheon is broken, some devoured, some bound, some in hiding, yet their echoes remain, for when gods die, the warp remembers. Gork and Mork, brutality and cunning made divine. The orcs, crude yet unstoppable, are perhaps the most honest children of the warp. Their gods, Gork and Mork, are brutal reflections of their nature raw, violent energies given divine form. They are not myths. Their psychic presence is real, fed by the collective Wa of orc belief. Orc shamans describe them as two sides of the same truth. Gork is brutal but cunning, striking without hesitation. Mork is cunning but brutal, outsmarting foes before crushing them. To argue which is greater is meaningless, for both are always right in the eyes of their green-skin followers. Their power grows with every brawl, every explosion of laughter, every wah that sweeps across the stars. The orcs' gestalt psychic field appears to warp reality in their favor, an explanation for why their ramshackle weapons and machines so often work only for them. They rarely manifest directly, but their will is felt through Weirdboys and in the Gargant's towering effigies of Gork and Mork, stomping idols that bring divine fury to the battlefield. Gork and Mork care nothing for prophecy or destiny. They care only for the eternal fight, and so long as orcs exist, they will never fade. The God Emperor of mankind, the immortal tyrant. In contrast to the primal deities of other races, the God Emperor of mankind stands apart, not a god by birth, but by apotheosis. One ancient legend tells that he was born from the sacrifice of countless shamans in humanity's prehistory, their spirits merging into one immortal being, though the truth of his origin remains unknown. He sought not worship, but unity, forging the imperium of man through reason and conquest. Yet, in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, he is no longer a man. Entombed upon the golden throne, his body is shattered, but his will endures. Though he never sought divinity, the faith of trillions has made him into one. In the warp, the Emperor's psychic radiance blazes like a star. The Astronomicon blazes by his will, projected by a vast choir of Adeptus Astronomica psychers whose service consumes them, while the golden throne itself is sustained by the continual sacrifice of psychers, often said to be 1,000 souls a day. The Emperor's domain is humanity itself. He embodies survival, order, and the ruthless will to persist. Yet he is both savior and jailer, a god chained to his throne, worshipped by an empire he once meant to free. Prophecies surround him. Some claim he will be reborn. Others fear his death would doom mankind to chaos. Whether living or dying, he remains the paradox at the heart of humanity, both hope and damnation made flesh. The machine god, the Omnissiah. To the Adeptus Mechanicus, the machine god is the divine spark within all creation, the spirit of knowledge, perfection, and endless recursion. Where others see lifeless steel, the Mechanicus sees divinity incarnate. The Omnissiah, the union of logic and soul. To their creed, every cog is sacred, every engine a prayer. The machine god's true nature is a mystery wrapped in dogma. Some proclaim the Omnissiah to be the Emperor himself, the divine flesh made manifest among circuits and sanctified oil. Others whisper darker truths, that the machine god is no man at all, but the slumbering void dragon, a fragment of an ancient Catan entombed beneath the red sands of Mars. To worship the Omnissiah is to surrender to order-made machine, to find holiness in the hum of the reactor and the rhythm of the forge. In the creed of the Mechanicus, knowledge is salvation, ignorance is sin, and the binary hymn is eternity. Whatever its origin, the machine god endures a deity of steel and silence, watching over a faith where prayer and computation are one. The Hive Mind, devourer of all. From the cold void beyond the galaxy, a presence alien and immeasurable presses inward. It is not a god born of faith, but an all-encompassing consciousness, the Hive Mind of the Tyranids. The Hive Mind is not worshipped, it is obeyed. Every Tyranid organism, from Gaunt to Hive Tyrant, is a fragment of one colossal will. To face it is to confront the distilled hunger of a superorganism vast enough to blot out suns. In the Immaterium, its arrival manifests as the shadow in the warp, a suffocating psychic silence that disrupts and deadens the warp itself. Under its pall, psychers falter, astropaths go mad, and demons are held at bay. The Hive Mind's only domain is consumption. It seeks neither worship nor prophecy, only to devour. Entire worlds have been scoured into lifeless husks by its endless hunger. If left unchecked, it will consume everything until only it remains. Tauva, the greater good. In contrast to the ancient horrors that haunt the stars, the Tauva, the greater good, is a newborn ideal. Forged by the collective belief of the Tau and their devotion to unity, some imperial savants speculate that it may be developing a faint warp echo, though this remains unproven. The greater good represents harmony, sacrifice, and the surrender of self to the collective. Yet, the Tau's limited connection to the warp and their lack of psychers make any such divinity a distant possibility at best. Though small upon the galactic stage, some whisper that the greater good could one day take form as a god of order, unity, and conformity. Or perhaps it will remain what it is, an ideal that guides without corrupting. The Tauva is not divine, but it is becoming something greater. Whether salvation or another tyranny, only time will tell. In the grim darkness of the far future, gods are not distant myths. They are the byproduct of thought, faith, and hunger. The warp teems with them. Ancient pantheons broken by folly. Star, gods shattered into shards, brutal effigies of greenskin laughter, and the newborn dreams of young races. Some are alive, raging in eternal battle. Some are shattered, husks drifting in the dark. Yet all share one truth: they are real, and they shape the fate of the galaxy. For mankind, the God Emperor endures as both savior and prison. For the orcs, Gork and Mork roar forever. For the Eldari, their pantheon lies in ruin, save for fragments that still burn in defiance. For the Necrons, the star gods remain broken, yet terrible. For the Tyranids, hunger itself is divinity. And for the Tau, the greater good promises a new dawn or a new chain. In this universe, no race is free from the grasp of godhood. To live is to feed a god. To fight is to honor one. To die is to serve in their eternal game. And so the 41st millennium grinds ever onward, a theater not of men and empires, but of gods, monsters, and the endless night.